In this video, we will be talking about cross-product matrix in relation to how to compute moment. Right? Basically, we will discuss about how we calculate moment using the cross-product matrix. So we'll begin with moment itself, right? So we'll go straight into the equation. If we calculate, for example, moment about a point using vector approach, so we will have m equal to r cross f, right? And normally we calculate using the matrix, but in this video I want to discuss it separately, right? Because how if we do not use the matrix? Can we calculate it? Yes, we can. But why is it easier to use the matrix, right? But unfortunately, some of you in the quiz, I see that you do not understand. You just blindly plug into the matrix and you get a totally wrong answer, right? So here we will try to illustrate the actual calculation without using the matrix, and then we relate to the matrix, inshallah, right? So let's say if we have R is di plus ej plus fk, let's say, right? That is the vector for the position vector, and f, let's say, is gi plus hj plus ik, def ghi, right? So let's just make that case, right? So we have calculated in the question, for example, what is the r and what is the f. So if we just calculate this cross this one, right? So it will mean that basically if you write back the m equal to r cross f is basically di plus ej plus fk cross with gi plus hj plus ik, right? Obviously, normally we do not do this because it's going to be long, but we will illustrate it regardless to state a point, to make a point, right? So what we do is basically this cross with this, and then this cross with this, and then this cross with this, and this cross with this onwards until the end, right? So we'll get a 9 multiply, right? So for example, this di and gi, what do you get? So I cross I becomes 0, right? So there's no there, so you have 0 there, right? Di and gi, di and hj, so I cross j becomes positive k, I cross j become positive k, d and h, so you have d h, and then I cross k become minus I, oops, sorry, minus I, right? Minus j, I make a mistake there. So I cross k becomes minus j, so d and I becomes di, right? Okay, second, ei and ej cross gi, j cross I becomes minus k, and then eg, and then ej cross hj plus 0, ej cross ik, jk plus I, right? Plus I, so ei, and then fk plus cross gi, k cross I become positive j, so fg, and then k cross j becomes minus I, so fh, and then plus 0 because k cross k. If we arrange this to get I here, so I, this one is I, this one is I, right? So you'll have ei minus fh, and then we gather the j, so it's this one and this one, right? So this is positive, so I take this one, fg minus di, right? And then for k plus k, so this one dh minus eg, right? So we will have the expression actually there from just this cross with this, right? But this is much easier if you just plug into the matrix, right? So if you put into the matrix, you will have I, J, K. And then remember, that's why we, okay, R cross F and F cross I, R cross F and, okay, let me write, is not the same as F cross R, right? You can try, switch this around. Because, for example, right, let's say EI here, EI, E and I here, right? So this is J cross K become positive I. But if you switch the place, K cross J become negative I. So it is the other way around, right? So you cannot, this is not equivalent, right? So you have to understand that when we do R cross F, the sequence is, this one is Rx, Ry, Rz, Fx, Fy, Fz, right? Which is, because, okay, let's put in this, because this one we can, okay, we use already D, E, F, G, H, I, so let's plug in here, right? So R will be D, E, F, and then G, H, I. So if we do this, let's use the method that normally students use, the close down method. So I, so we have I, then EI minus FH, and then minus J. Okay, remember in the previous video we already have cater Y, this is negative here, right? So DI FG plus, minus FG. And then plus K, so DH minus EG, which should be the same as this one, right? Obviously here, because I put positive just normally, so it becomes like this, but the one, it should be flipped because this is negative there, right? So EI F minus FH, EI minus FH. Here, if you just, meaning you solve this one, it will become Fg minus Di here, right? Fg minus Di, and then Dh minus Eg. So it's the same, right? So as long as you put in the right sequence, and that's why, even though, why is the IJK here? Even though in here, meaning why? Because it actually matched this one, right? So that's how I can explain it, because this is actually the original calculation, right? Because when you cross two vector, so this is how you do it if you do it manually, but it can be simplified as this and you get exactly the same, right? So that is for R cross F. What about when you have moment about an axis, where you have M equal to U dot R cross F, right? Notice that even in the equation, this is vector M, this is a scalar M, right? Notice, this is scalar, this is vector. Why? Because when you do this, you will get a scalar. When you do this, you get vector, like this one, right? So, how to illustrate? Okay, so if we say U, okay, let me add another layer then. Let's say U is AI plus BJ plus CK, right? Now we have, for this equation, u is ai plus bj plus ck, and r and f is remaining the same. In this calculation, meaning that the whole thing here, because we have u dot this one, right? So this one inside is still the same, so it will result in the same here, right? But outside here, so how to write it this? Okay, so it is actually ai, okay, my plus bj plus ck. So sorry, because of the space, so I write it like this. This is not a different type of matrix, this is just, it's actually writing like this, right? But not enough space. ai plus bj plus ck, put here, dot the whole thing, meaning that when you calculate the whole thing, this is still inside the bracket, right? So you will get, basically, to cut it short, you get this whole thing dot with ai plus bj plus ck, right? This whole thing dot with this one from this original equation. And we know I dot I becomes 1, I dot j becomes 0, I dot k becomes 0, and so on. J dot I becomes 0, j dot j becomes 1, j dot k becomes 0, k dot I 0, k dot j 0, k dot k 1, right? So when you dot this, you'll just get, because this portion with this will become 0, but with this become 1, meaning I and I become 1, but A is still A. So that's why you get A E I minus F H. And then B, BJ and J becomes just B plus B there, F G minus DI. And then this one plus C, DH minus EG, right? So you'll notice that when you have this U component there, it takes place, originally the IJK becomes ABC, right? So in this matrix here, when we have this, so that's why it will be just the same is if you replace this with the unit vector, right? So this is still R, this is still F, but U is here. So you get A, B, C. Now, just to help memorization, that's why we write like this, or I prefer to write like this, even though if you write, where to write it? Okay, if I write like this, M equal to R cross F dot U, is it the same? Yes, the same, because A dot B is exactly equal to B dot A, right? It doesn't change direction. So this dot this and this dot this is the same. But if you write like this, will that make you confused? Because if you write like this, then simply U is the first one, R is the second one, F is the third one. It's easy to memorize, right? So when you do like this, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, what you'll get is A, that one, minus B plus C, right? Whatever value you get there. Hence, there's no such thing as IJK there, right? So I have make a specific emphasis on this in the previous video when we talk about the metric itself, right? So it is just like this, becomes like this. IJK is not automatically come out of nowhere. Why is it IJK? Because IJK is there. If it's ABC, then it's ABC, right? So this is to relate how you actually calculate normally the cross product, like we showed before originally, and also if you have the dot here for matrix moment about an axis, it will become like this. How that can be easily calculated just by plug into the matrix and calculate, right? It actually cuts short several steps, 1 or 2 steps, because when you do one by one just now, right, especially here, right, when you cross this one, it takes much longer time rather than this one. Straight away you can put in there. But hopefully you understand where it comes from, right, and what it helps to calculate, and it still becomes like this, right? Do not just, because I'm not sure what is the issue, but I assume some try to memorize and do not even know why this thing is like this, and in the quiz it becomes apparent that some just blindly put R here, F here, whatever that is. So make sure you understand, or if you still find it confusing, wait, what is this matrix? Just you do like this. Just do like this. But of course, you have to understand I cross I becomes what, I dot I becomes what, I cross J becomes what, right? That is more fundamental. If you have any question on that or any other things that I have mentioned or not mentioned, please do ask, including in the comment section below, so that you do not forget your question when the class come, and I can be notified that you have a specific question that I can prepare to help you with, inshallah. Right? I'm always try to help, but if you do not ask question, I do not know what exactly you need to be explained about. Right? So with that, hopefully you can understand. Hopefully this is not becomes too messy and more confusing. Hopefully it helps, inshallah. All the best. See you next time.